It has been so crazy since we got back here into the Pacific Northwest. It hasn't stopped raining. This is the first day that there isn't rain, and it's still completely overcast, and we're still expecting rain. So I have a few minutes to be outside in 3 weeks. And it's not just the weather. I mean, globally, there's some really weird stuff going on. So let's look at some of that. Starting with last year, the release of the Pfizer documents, and then we had in February that 20% increase or that 20% spike in deaths globally. Oh, the World Health Organization playing Pinky and the Brain and going for world domination. Inside of all of that, all of a sudden there's all these weird health issues going on. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to actually share with you what started out as what I thought was just my thing, and I thought it was some other flavor of long haulers. And then when I got back in clinic, I was surprised to find out that there was a number of people that were experiencing this. There was a lot of people experiencing this, and that sent me on one of my research binges. And so I'm going to share with you what I found out, what I'm doing, and hopefully that can help you as you navigate your own personal health issues. And be completely aware that this is not health advice, that you need to talk with your health practitioner in order to make this work for you. But this is just me sharing anecdotal information. Whether that has any relevance or whether there's any reality to it, that's questionable. So take everything here with a grain of salt, and why don't we go inside and let's just start talking about it. Hey, thanks for joining me. So here's what we're going to talk about. I am going to share with you an anecdotal story, right, of what happened to me and what happened when I got back into clinic. So I'm going to talk to you about some weird health things that I started experiencing, and then I'm going to tell you what happened when I got back into clinic, because I was out of clinic for about a month. And then we're going to talk about some of the formulas that I've been using to help address this. We're going to talk about how Chinese medicine interpreted this, and so give you some ideas of how you can use Chinese medicine to diagnose. And then we're going to talk about the current scientific research out there. Well, I'll talk about, based off of what I was seeing, some of the hypotheses that I put together of what might be happening. And I didn't think I was going to talk about science, but we're going to talk about science, because the weirdest thing happened is at the same time I was trying to figure this out, scientists started speaking again. And I think that might have been part of, the release of the Pfizer documents, is suddenly scientists felt that they weren't quite as censored as they have been over the last 2-3 years. And so they started speaking again and sharing some of their research. And I'll share with you some of their research, because that's been kind of instrumental in helping guide me and validate what I was thinking. All the research and all the articles that I was looking at, I've actually downloaded those and I've put them on a separate web page so you can go look at them. What I have found is that sometimes the research that I've found, it actually has a habit of disappearing off the web, and I thought that couldn't happen, and obviously I'm wrong. It can happen. So this is all going to be on a separate web page. If you look in the video description below, you can find a link and you can find all the information there. Okay, let's start out with my personal story. And this is just a personal story. It may or may not have something to do with this situation. It's just anecdotal. It's not a health advice. And any health advice you should get from your healthcare provider. I talk a lot about globus hystericus, and that's because I started suffering from globus hystericus back in maybe 2016 when I was a caregiver for my family. And mine was really triggered by stress, and then afterwards I was able to get it back under control, and things were pretty good. But if I got stressed out, it could flare up again. And then I'd have to do something to help take care of it again. I'd have to start taking care of myself. Well, back last year, back in October 2022, I started thinking that kind of felt like something was restricting my throat, that something was cutting off the air to my throat. And that's a symptom that I hear a lot. So this is kind of like globus hystericus on steroids. You know, it's not just that you have a knot in your throat, it's that this knot in your throat is now trying to choke you. One of my clients was talking about their sensation, and it had gotten so bad that they thought they weren't going to be able to breathe. They thought they were going to die. So this can get progressively worse, and you can get really hoarse, and you can feel like there's a lot of phlegm in your throat and you can't get it out, and it's just stuck there. And it can just cause this real intense distress. Well, then a few months later, I started getting digestive issues. And I have digestive issues, right? I spend a lot of time talking about clean eating, what foods mean, how to help manage your digestion. I know a lot about digestion. And then something changed. My digestive issues were starting to get worse, and I couldn't manage them anymore. And they would just get progressively worse. And then it got to the point where I couldn't eat anything. Now, I didn't so much get the sensation of heartburn. I mean, every once in a while I might get heartburn. It was more the sensation of incredible bloating or gas, everybody wants that, or nausea. Nausea was probably the most common symptom that I would feel, and it would leave me feeling just really off. And it got down to everything I ate. It got down to me eating saltines and drinking ginger ale. So there was no safe food anymore, absolutely no safe food anymore. And then there was these head symptoms, right? And I would feel a lot of pressure in my head. It wasn't that I was getting headaches. It was just this incredible amount of pressure in my head. And it could be going up either side of my head. It could be going up one side. It could be focused on the front, and this pressure, it would seem to make my vision blurry. And that was really different for me. I usually, if I get pretty stressed out, I know my blood pressure's gone up because I'll get a headache. I wasn't getting headaches. I was getting some totally new symptoms. So just like the digestion, I was getting something totally new. When I took my blood pressure, what I found was that my blood pressure had shot up to 160/95. You know, that was in March of 2023. And yet in November of 2022, my blood pressure was 120/80. So somewhere within these 3-4 months, my blood pressure went from normal to, for me, skyrocketing. And it felt really bad. It felt like the blood was being cut off to my head. So this throat thing felt like it was cutting off the blood pressure to my head. And of course, I thought I was going to stroke out. For me, these symptoms cascaded in a period of 1 month when I wasn't in clinic. So everything was fine back in 2022. And then in this 1 month period, somewhere around March of 2023, all of a sudden all these symptoms cascaded. And being that I wasn't working with other people, it didn't look like anybody else was experiencing this. So I really thought it was just another flavor of long haulers, right? And you can't imagine my surprise when I got back into clinic and found out that there were a number of my clients that were experiencing similar symptoms. I'm going to end this episode here. And this is just where we've touched base on what the symptoms were that I was experiencing for myself, where something felt like it was cutting off, or there was a knot somewhere in my throat. And I had horrible digestive issues, just horrible. And suddenly my blood
pressure spiked. So that's what I saw for myself. And in the next episode, in the next part, I am going to talk about what happened when I came back in clinic, what that made me think about. And then hopefully I want to talk about the herbal formula that I started using. I'm going to try to get the next episode out quickly just because it starts going over some of the formulas. And if you're somebody who's been suffering from symptoms that are very similar to this and you're having a hard time managing it or getting it under control and you want to work with me, you definitely can do that. If you're in the United States, just because of the issue with formulas. So this is very different than working with my digestion or my internal alchemy programs where I can work anywhere in the world. There's going to be a link at the end of this video that you can click on to schedule an appointment with me. Okay, guys, until next time, I will catch you on the other side.